Before you start to bandage, you need to make sure that you've got the right equipment. So if you were going to choose a bandage, you want to check the horse's leg and the size of the horse. So if it's got very wide legs or very long legs, you might have a slightly bigger bandage. You can also pick the bandage up and squeeze it. So if you squeeze it and it feels quite thin, it's most probably not going to be very long if you're unsure of the actual length of them. You don't necessarily have to be biased on colour, but I might be avoiding the pink myself or a bright yellow. You also just need to make sure that it's going to be a suitable size or length bandage that you would be able to work with. I would most probably be avoiding this very big, large, wide bandage because I would find it quite difficult to bandage around the fetlock joint and along the pastern. I'd also most probably be avoiding a very small bandage because I would find that would be quite tricky on larger horses unless you were bandaging on a pony. So mine would be quite bulky to hold, so it's quite wide, so I know that the bandage is quite long, and I would go for the knitted type of bandage rather than a fleecy type, just because you have slightly more elasticity to work with, so it's most probably going to be quite easy to mould around the horse's legs so it would fit slightly better. You also want to be able to select a correct padding for underneath your bandage. So this would be fibre G. They come in different sizes, or you can cut them to size depending on your horse's leg and the type of bandage that you were doing. Or you could use the Bandage. So this is sort of tightly knit, absorbent sort of cotton wool. So you may find that this might mould around the horse's legs slightly better. Particularly if you had a horse that you were slightly worried was going to have any swelling, or you might have to bandage because of an injury. This is more commonly used for sort of everyday bandages. So if you're bandaging your horse at night, or it has a bit of foam in the middle and it's covered by a soft covering, it's quite robust, it's quite easy to use, but you just need to make sure you select the right size for your horse. Also, I would try to avoid anything with any holes or lumps and bumps, and I'd also pick off any sort of foreign objects, so bits of bedding. You can brush them, but sometimes they pull and they wear. I'd be quite particular about the type of fibre G that you are using, so you're not going to have any sort of pressure points or any areas that might rub the horse itself. Okay, have your selected fibre G or Bandage or whatever underpad you're going to use. Make sure it goes around the leg nice and flat, so it is going towards the back of the horse. Then get your chosen bandage. I will start in the middle, but just make sure that the pressure is equal, and then just roll around the leg, ideally with an equal spacing between each, just making sure as you go down the leg that you've got no lumps or bumps in the way. For a stable bandage, we always go down the pastern and then have a little V at the front, so as the horse puts its foot on the floor it has a little bit of room for expansion, and then you move back up the leg, just rolling the bandage around the leg so it's not too tight but it's secure. Feel for where the pisiform bone is at the back so you don't go too high, so don't cause a problem where the tendon would run. And then have your back, these are quite good because they've got Velcro. And then just put 2 fingers in and just check. You can get 2 fingers in there easily to make sure that it's not too tight. When we talk about the V, it's this little V here. So as the horse puts its foot on the floor, it has a little bit of room for expansion. So we always try to have this at the front of the foot. So as they place the foot on the floor, they have a bit of room to move. And again, you want to make sure that your bandage is nice and equal all the way up. Don't have any lumps or bumps in it. If I was going to be really fussy, I'd quite like that to be there. But higher up the leg, so it's protected by the knee, so it's less likely to brush undone, is desirable. And it really does depend on your fibre G whether you chop that bit and that bit off so your bedding doesn't get stuck to it. But I always quite like a little bit of an overlap. You don't have any pressure points really on your stable bandage. When bandaging a back leg, I would always tie the tail in a knot, so then you can make sure that you're not going to bandage the tail as well as the leg. Obviously reassure the horse so it doesn't actually get startled and end up kicking you, which would never be very good. And again, the same rules apply as the front leg. Make sure that you have equal pressure all the way down the leg. Now, cannon bones at the back tend to be slightly longer, so allow for that when you're doing your spacing. Again, still have the V at the front. Again, feel for the base of the hock, and then ideally have your tapes on the outside. When removing your stable bandage, you want to be fairly efficient. You want to undo it and then just pass it from hand to hand quite swiftly. So if the horse should panic or move, you can make sure that you can get the horse free so it doesn't get tangled around its leg. And I always give it a rub just to make sure you sort of stimulate the circulation. And then all good efficient yard members would roll the bandages up straight away the correct way once they're finished.